Don't call me crazy, but I think there might be time and need for change in Baltimore at the head coaching spot.
The barbershop is open and Tony Wiggins has a chair for you. He's ready with some real NFL talk. The local experts of Locked On bring their expertise, and Wiggy is ready with his clippers and shears. Sit down and enjoy. The new Locked On NFL starts now. Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
That is a fact, Jack. It is your team every day here on Locked On NFL. We thank you for making us your first listen. I'm Tony Wiggins, the host of the Locked On NFL Barbershop Edition, where we use the help of local experts from around our network here on Locked On NFL to keep our finger on the pulse of everything that's going on around the league. And of course, it is Monday. That means Julian Council from Locked On Panthers is here with us. We're going to run it down for you. But first, I have to let you know that wherever you get your podcast, make sure you tap into that location each and every day so you do not miss an episode of the show. We got a little doozy for you today, man. Got some things to discuss with you. But first, I want to thank you for listening to Locked On NFL and remind you that you can follow our show and hear new episodes ad-free daily on Amazon Music. So go check that out. Here's what Julian and I are going to go through for you today. The Bears improved a little. And that little is all it takes to get them to 2-1 so far this season in Ben Johnson's first year. The Cowboys, in the middle of the show, we'll discuss them. They look okay for a night, even though they didn't win, but still they didn't lose. We'll discuss that. We're going to start with my main topic today concerning the Baltimore Ravens. And I know I'll get some flack about this, but I don't care. It seems like to me that things have gotten stale in Baltimore and there's nothing else that they can do. After this season, they might need to make a coaching change from John Harbaugh. Not that he's a bad coach, but Julian, as we talk and progress, I'll use some examples as to why I think change needs to happen.
Okay. That is surprising. I understand a 1-3 start's not what anybody in Baltimore wanted to see at the beginning of the season, but going after John Harbaugh 4 weeks into the year, and I mean, I don't even know how long he's been up in Baltimore. It's been over a decade. It seems a little premature to me.
Yeah.
Like to wait and see how it plays out.
Yeah, I understand, but premature is like my middle name, man. I'm always a little early on everything. We're going to listen to my man Kevin Oestreicher and the despair in his voice after the Ravens went up and got smoked in Kansas City yesterday. Here it is.
The Baltimore Ravens lose in one of the most embarrassing fashions you can have at the NFL level. I'm Kevin Oestreicher, the host of Locked On Ravens. 37-20, the final score. The Ravens lose to the Chiefs in week number 4. Drops their record to 1-3, and they look pathetic doing it. The defense gave them nothing. The Chiefs punted one time all game, and that came with about 3 minutes to go in the entire game. The Chiefs went 57 minutes without punting the ball. On the offensive side of the ball, the Ravens started off fast, but then really didn't get a lot going for the majority of the game after that. And you have the injuries continuing to pile up. Nate Wiggins, Lamar Jackson, Ronnie Stanley, Roquan Smith, Marlon Humphrey all left this game with injury. Just about as disaster as you can get at the NFL level. Now the Ravens have a Texans team staring them in the face right now. You have to win that game. You cannot drop to 1-4, but there's a lot of soul searching to do and definitely a lot of decisions that have to be made about how this Ravens team operates because everybody looks dejected, tired, and really unmotivated here. It's a big problem. So for more on the Ravens, check out the Locked On Ravens podcast and subscribe on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
All right, my opinion isn't rooted on whether or not I think John Harbaugh is a good coach. I do. It's not rooted in the fact that I also don't believe that this is his fault. I do think, though, after a period of time, we have to look back, just like we look at the Philadelphia Eagles right now and say that during their success, Baltimore was a GM-driven team. We talk about Harry Roseman, but we don't talk about Ozzie Newsome enough. Ozzie Newsome is one of the best GMs. I think he's going to be a Hall of Famer twice, as a player and as a GM. When you start losing him for the day-to-day, and then when you got half your staff out in Seattle, and people have always cherry-picked folks from that organization, you got more of them even out in Los Angeles with the Chargers, at some point, the foundation of who you are starts to chip away, and then you have to look up and say, what else can they do? They go get Derrick Henry, they go get Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson statistically is one of the best players that we've ever seen at the quarterback position, but they keep losing games to these really, really good teams. And at some point, somebody's going to either be smart enough or dumb enough to say, we need to move in a different direction. Almost like Sean Payton in New Orleans, almost like, to a lesser degree, Mike McCarthy. There have been situations where you had winning coaches. They've been trying to do it in Pittsburgh forever, right?
Yeah.
At some point, you go like, what are we missing? You can't change all the players out because they're contractually obligated to them. What do you do to get over the hump? And I think they're going to end up trying something. I don't know if it'll be a good idea, but what I meant to say is I don't think it's his fault, but I also don't think he's going to be a part of the solution because it seems like everybody's just doing what they want to do, and they checked out a little bit, according to Ostraker.
Yeah. So with Sean Payton, like things got stale there in New Orleans where they had 3 straight 8-8 seasons and they stuck with him. And then they won the division, I believe, 4 years in a row before he decided to move on after that one season with Jameis Winston, when Jameis actually got hurt in that season. I think Andy Dalton was starting for a large portion of that year. Then he moved on. So, I mean, New Orleans stayed with him with the same quarterback that had got them to the mountaintop and won the Super Bowl, and they ended up being rewarded. You look at a couple of years ago, I mean, Steve Bisciotti, the owner up in Baltimore, when Joe Flacco, when he was at the end of his career there in Baltimore and they had drafted Lamar Jackson, they went to Lamar, and Lamar saved John Harbaugh's job. So I don't think that John Harbaugh can't still have the same kind of turnaround. I just look at this where, yeah, I mean, they lost Mike McDonald, who was a part of that Harbaugh tree where he was in Michigan with Jim. Then he came to Baltimore. Now he's head coach in Seattle. They're 3-1. He clearly was the best of the first-time head coaches a year ago, as that was a 10-win team that just barely missed the playoffs in the NFC. And right now they have Seattle as one of the top defenses in the league, while Baltimore couldn't get a stop yesterday against Kansas City. So I think it's more of like the brain drain. And this is something that happens all the time. Like Philadelphia offensively, I mean, since they've lost Shane Steichen, haven't we seen that offense not look like it did a couple of years ago when they lost Kansas City in the Super Bowl? I know they won it back in February, large part because of the defense, but there's week in, week out, always questions about them. I just think it's the brain drain and not, again, John Harbaugh and his fault. Now it is his job to go out there and to bring in somebody who can replace the other guy, but that's never a guarantee that you're going to get somebody better or really at to the same level. So I just look at Baltimore this season. I think that, one, the schedule has been brutal. Like the Bills game, you have the Bills, you have the Lions, you have the Chiefs. Now, they should not have lost to Buffalo, and you could argue they shouldn't have lost that other game against the Lions, that Derrick Henry not fumbled again. They could be sitting here at 4-0 or 3-1 had that been the case, but you're also not going to be playing the Bills, the Lions, and the Chiefs the rest of the year. Like, they still have the Texans coming up, who have not been good so far. They have the Rams. That's a good football team, but then things kind of get a little bit easier where you're looking at the Dolphins. They're not a good team. The Vikings don't look great right now. Even if they had J.J. McCarthy, they have the Browns again. They have the Jets. Like, the schedule gets easier. And looking at the end of the game on Sunday, they were out their top 5 guys who are, as far as top highest paid players, in Lamar Jackson, Nnamdi Madubuike, Ronnie Stanley, Roquan Smith, Marlon Humphrey. How many teams in the league are going to have success on a Sunday when they're missing their top 5 highest paid players? So, I mean, it really depends on who those guys are. I just think that when the schedule gets easier, once you get healthier, the Ravens will be fine, and they're still favored to win the AFC North, which is not a division you're looking at where Cincinnati's at without Joe Burrow, where Pittsburgh's at, even sitting, I believe, at 3-1 right now. And then, of course, Cleveland, like, they still, I think, will be in a good enough spot to get to the playoffs. They just won't be in position where they're playing at home very long, which is what they would have hoped to have had coming into the year.
All right, so hear me out. I agree with all of that stuff you just said, and I don't think he's the problem. My question is will Steve Bisciotti believe he is the solution? Because if Lamar Jackson had to save his job a few years ago, there's a lot that's happened since those few years. They paid him a lot of money. They've gone out and paid a bunch of other people a lot of money, and they've lost all of these games against those good teams. So even when they turn it around this year, and we're sure they'll win 11 or 12 games. They got to go right back to the playoffs again and run into these teams all over again. And then that'll be 2 more losses if they don't figure that out. Right. So that's knowing the NFL. If he was about to be fired before, they got way more ammunition than they had then to want to go ahead and pull the trigger and do it now and find a young whippersnapper for the rest of Lamar Jackson's career. We'll get to the Kansas City Chiefs later on in the week. But now we got to talk about that debacle in Dallas. Everybody says it was a good game. Well, it wasn't that much drama to me. I'll tell you why in just a second here on Locked On NFL. All right, man. Today's show is sponsored and brought to you by Prize Picks. Every day we make decisions, but on Prize Picks, being right can actually get you paid. Don't miss the excitement of this football season with Prize Picks, where it's good to be right. Playing Prize Picks is such a fun, simple way to add more excitement to football. You just pick more or less on player projections, like Josh Allen's passing yards or Saquon Barkley's rushing for a touchdown, and you're in the game. Telling you what, man, you had taken Brock Purdy to throw multiple interceptions yesterday or more, because I think it was about 1.5. And you'd have won you some money. Download the Prize Picks app today and use the code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's Locked On NFL for $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. And today's show is also sponsored and brought to you by Rougiette. That's right. What you get when you have a bald eagle standing on top of a silverback gorilla riding a T-Rex? Confidence. That's what you get. Pure confidence. If you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rougiette Go Long. That's exactly where Rougiette's Go Long comes in. This isn't just another ED pill. It's a total game changer for confidence. Go Long combines 2 doctor-trusted medications in one dual-action formula so you can get hard and go the distance. Ready to level up your confidence in the bedroom? Head to RUGIET.com and use promo code LOCKEDONNFL for 15% off your first order. That's Rougiette, RUGIET.com, promo code LOCKEDONNFL. Make sure to use the code so they know we sent you. All right, continuing here on a Monday, Victory Monday for some people. Some people it's not a Victory Monday, but it's always a winning Monday here on Locked On NFL, where my man Julian Council from Locked On Panthers joins me. Breaking news, Julian, you just told me something while we were reading that.
Looking over at Ian Rappaport, Adam Schefter of the NFL Network and ESPN, it is confirmed that Malik Neighbors, the star wide receiver up in New York at the Giants, tore his ACL. And Sunday's what was a surprising win against the Chargers during Jackson Dart's debut. So obviously a big blow to the Giants, where you have a rookie quarterback, you're excited about him, you have a great wide receiver, you're excited to see that tandem. And after really one half, that's done for the rest of the season.
Yeah, we don't like I call it the I word when I do Locked On Jaguars. We hate injuries, man. As much as we go back and forth about fandom, you don't like seeing guys have to go through that. So hopefully he'll have a speedy recovery for the Giant fans and he can get back to doing the things that was making him so great of a player. Speaking of a great player went back home. Micah Parsons went back to Dallas. You know, I set myself up, man, thinking he was going to come out there and get a sack like on the first play of the game and all of this. It didn't never really materialize. But what did materialize is I thought I was watching the Giants and the Cowboys all over again, because it was 40-40 at the end of all of this. Landon McCool here talks about the fact that there was a tie game last night. And this whole Jerry, did I get it right? Did I do it wrong? We're going to have to continue to hearing about it because nothing was settled. And it wouldn't have been settled last night anyway, because this is about now versus the future. But here's Landon McCool from the Locked On Cowboys.
A lot of hype and a lot of scoring, but it all ends up with kissing your sister. Hi, I'm Landon McCool with the Locked On Cowboys podcast, and the Green Bay Packers and the Dallas Cowboys played to a tie after 80 collective points. And truly a non-factor from Micah Parsons. A crazy wild game. At one point was 13-2 as the Cowboys were able to block an extra point and to return for an extra 2 points. And frankly, it really made for the kickoff of all of the Cowboys' hopes at that point, as they were able to finish a whole bunch of drives with touchdowns after that and actually get off the field a couple different times, though their defense was absolutely shredded at times for the Packers. Lots to discuss here. So make sure you guys check us out on the Locked On Cowboys podcast as the Cowboys and Packers tie at 40 apiece on Sunday Night Football.
Dallas just might have a new identity. They get some of those weapons back on offense and the offensive linemen that are injured. Dallas might just be the way the Bengals were a few years back. We just got to outscore people. Maybe that's what they got to do. But I tell you what, who's playing well is Dak Prescott. Dak has answered any question anybody had about how good of a quarterback he is. He has solidified himself and solidly represented in the top 10 quarterbacks in the league. But I was a little disappointed in the game last night. I was really disappointed in the Packers, and we'll get to them in a minute. But tell me how you felt about the game last night.
Yeah, well, I'd say that Cincinnati's identity still is that, where they have to outscore teams. Now, they don't have Joe Burrow right now, so that's not helpful, but they're still not good defensively, and clearly Dallas is not good defensively at all. But when you have a guy like Dak Prescott, you can be without CeeDee Lamb, without three of your starting offensive linemen, and still go to overtime and have a chance to win that game against Green Bay. Now, really interesting, Landon saying that it's like kissing your sister. I feel like that's got to be a lot worse than tying a football game. Yeah, but I don't know, because that's something I've never done. So it's just, that is really interesting. I do laugh anytime there's a tie in the NFL, because I think back to Donovan McNabb being like, wait, you can tie? And then just the fact that, so if you want to avoid these, why is overtime only 10 minutes? And then why are both teams getting possessions in OT? Like, that feels like that's a thing that should only exist in the playoffs, honestly. And even then, like, they're making it too much of a big deal out of the one time Josh Allen didn't touch the football, to where they had to go out there and change the rule. But yeah, like, I just laugh anytime there's a tie, because people just get so upset. It's like, you had plenty of time to decide this game. You had 70 minutes and you still couldn't figure out who's going to win.
Yeah, I didn't hear Jerry's comments because it was late, but I assumed it's like, see, you know, it was almost like, we ain't gonna pay one guy all of that money. We can spread it around. And okay, so how about this? You paid CD all that money and he wasn't there, and look what you did. You scored 40 points, but nobody will bring that part of it up.
Deron Bland wasn't there right either, and they just paid him.
Yeah, maybe you ain't need to pay none of those dudes all of that money. I don't know if that's the argument you're going to make. Green Bay made a big trade for Michael Parsons. He's been great to me. I thought he was probably a little emotional. He probably felt like he was playing against his family members at a family reunion last night. I was just a little bit underwhelmed about their performance. Even the quarterback, man, look, great player, good player, statistically showed up. But it's like 5 or 6 times a game, man, where it's like it's a head scratcher. I'm going to let Peter Bukowski talk about this entire thing, and then you can hear the disappointment in his voice a little bit here from Locked On Packers.
The Green Bay Packers tied the Dallas Cowboys on Sunday night because they played not to lose. And I guess they didn't lose it. I'm Peter Bukowski, host of Locked On Packers, and it was a 40-40 tie. A tie. Because this Packers team, Matt LaFleur in particular, but I'll include Jeff Hafley in this as well, they played not to lose. They played not to lose. They played scared. They played conservative, defensively and offensively. And they still, because this Cowboys defense is putrid and because this Packers offense is really good, they scored 40 points. To that end, Jordan Love was incredible in this game. He was outstanding, and yet Matt LaFleur refused to take the governor off even at the end. Multiple runs late to set up the 53-yard field goal instead of trying to get into the end zone. One throw into the end zone at the end of the game. Just unthinkably conservative play calling from Matt LaFleur. And
so, yeah, that's where I knew we were going to disagree a little bit. Like, he was pretty good, right?
Yeah.
Considering that their defense is bad. But we ain't just going to act like he ain't fumbled that ball on that sack and being loosey-goosey with the football, too. He did. And sure. I do think that they were throwing the ball behind the line of scrimmage a little bit too much. By the way, that little rookie they got from Texas, he might want to wear a bigger helmet and learn how to duck, because I saw him get hit so many times. Golden. Oh my God. It was like, dude, is your career going to end right now in your rookie year? Because he took some hits last night, but Green Bay just might not be who we all thought they were, or at least who I thought they were after the first 2 weeks.
Well, I think after the first week, I think there was they just lost to the Browns, a week ago. They did, didn't they? So, like, there was a pretty big reaction to that opener against Detroit, because obviously the Lions were great last year. They dealt with a lot of injuries, but coming back, everyone wanted to see who they were without Aaron Glenn as their defensive coordinator, without Ben Johnson as their OC. And of course, Micah Parsons, that defense looked great. The offense looked great as well in that opening week game. But there's 16 more games after that. And there's 16 more weeks to figure out who this team truly is. And the last 3 weeks, maybe Detroit's not as good as they looked in that week 1, but we know what they're capable of. And Detroit since then has looked pretty good. Looked like they're still the class of the NFC North, as there are some issues there. I mean, Chicago, they got a nice win on Sunday. And we're going to talk about that momentarily. But then Minnesota, I mean, I have real concerns about them right now, whether J.J. McCarthy is healthy or not. But Green Bay, yeah, I think we're going to have to just recalibrate and wait a couple more weeks, figure out who this Packers team may actually be. And like, I understand you want to play for the win, but like losing hurts you far more than tying this game. Like, I know the ties are rare, but if you people who watch soccer, like a draw is a good result a lot of times.
Yeah.
But in the NFL, like that's never a good result for people. But it's better than losing. And we'll see as things play out the rest of the year, whether that tie ends up actually being beneficial rather than having lost to Dallas instead.
Yeah, Julian and I know what it's like for teams to lose a lot of games. So even a tie or a win that's ugly that gets you to 2-1 is better than being 1-2 or 0-3. And there's a couple of 2-1 teams that have surprised us so far. We're going to discuss the Bears and the Colts in just a second here on Locked On NFL. All right, show is sponsored and presented to you by 5-Hour Energy. Caffeine just got a flavor upgrade. 5-Hour Energy shots deliver tasty caffeine in 17 bold flavors. Each 2-ounce shot packs the caffeine of a premium 12-ounce coffee, plus B vitamins and nutrients, and zero sugar with zero crashes. What I love most is how portable they are. Big taste, tiny shot, and you can take it anywhere and get that boost that you needed. Whether you're on the golf course, whether you're sitting behind a mic doing podcasts for 10 hours a day, you got to stay awoke. And then by doing that, sometimes you take stuff that doesn't taste good. This tastes good, and that's the biggest thing. Enough with boring, flavorless caffeine. It's time to give your caffeine a flavor upgrade with 5-Hour Energy shots. Get the favorites you love, or be bold and try something new in-store and online at www.5hourenergy.com or Amazon today. And the NFL season is 4 weeks in, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. $300 in bonus bets. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Now, if you caught yesterday's game that we'll talk about in a minute with the Colts and the Rams, you know that the Rams had a little bit of a distinct advantage, obviously, because they were at home, and maybe they just know how to win, and the Colts aren't quite there yet. And that's what you can take advantage of on FanDuel. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. All right, let's check in up in the Windy City with my man Lauren Cox from Locked On Bears. So much talk about the Bears and whether they'll improve after week 1. Caleb looked decent for a while, and then he looked like the same old Caleb. But then guess what? They have managed to get it going. I think they're 2-2 now. They've won 2 games. They've lost 2. I'm not going to even worry about the opponents because the opponents don't matter. When you're used to losing, you always lose games that are close and that you have a hard time. They won a close game yesterday against the Raiders, and here's my man Lauren Cox to tell you exactly how they did it.
It took offense, it took defense, and it definitely took special teams, but the Chicago Bears found a way to hang on and beat the Las Vegas Raiders and head into the bye week 2-2. It wasn't pretty, maybe in any of those 3 areas, and yet that's kind of where this Bears team stands right now. They're inconsistent with flashes of greatness, and it's been just enough to beat teams like the Raiders and leave you feeling like this team is close to something. You see the offense look great, then you see them struggle. You see the defense make all the turnovers and then give up some big running plays. You see the special teams allow a big kick return, but then make the blocked field goal. Finally, the Bears are going from finding ways to lose to finding ways to win, and it's a sign of real progress under head coach Ben Johnson, now heading into the bye week with plenty of time to clean things up and try and come out the other side a better football team. A lot to break down over on the Locked On Bears podcast. Find it on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Having talented players and learning how to win is the difference from winning 4 games to winning 8. We know there's another level. You got to also that you have to do to go from winning 8 to 10 or 11. But this is a nice little start for Ben Johnson. We were wondering what kind of leader he would be, and they're 2-2 at least.
Yeah, Bean didn't look great the first 2 weeks. Last 2 weeks, beating Dallas, winning that game against Las Vegas, you feel better. And they might actually be one of the few teams that would benefit from an early bye. If I was a team, I would hate to have the week 5 bye and have to go out there, play 13 more games in a row. I understand you're going to get some Thursday, some Monday, you're going to get that little mini bye in there, but that's a grind. But for this team, especially trying to self-scout, be able to clean up some of those things like Lauren was talking about, especially offensively, get Caleb and Ben more on page, and then have 13 more weeks to go out there and implement it may actually be a positive for them early on this season. And yeah, I mean, look, you got to put yourself in a position to win games, and they put themselves in a position where they were up, where Las Vegas had to go down the field, try to get that game-winning field goal. They miss it, unfortunately, for Pete Carroll and Geno Smith and company. And for Chicago, great. They were in position to win. And like, that's as simple as you got to do. Put pressure on your opponent. And if they miss, they make a mistake, you come out on top. And that's really how it played out on Sunday, where certainly they were not perfect in that game by any stretch, but they did enough to win, which is all that really matters at the end of the day.
It is all that matters. So leading from that to this, I don't believe in moral victories. But I do think sometimes a team can show you who they are for real when you are wondering whether or not the record is really who they are, because the Colts have been so bad for a while and so mid and mediocre. And then they get Daniel Jones as quarterback this year, and they're 3-0, and they're going to the Rams. And we go, okay, so this is going to show us. They lose the game 27-20. But to have that game tied that way at that point against the team that we all believe is a really good team in the Rams, I was really, really impressed with the Colts in that loss, and they are very formidable in the AFC South where my team resides. Here's Locked On Colts to tell you exactly what he thinks.
Colts found all the right ways to beat themselves in a 27-20 loss to a really good Rams team. Here the Colts are. After starting out undefeated, they are now 3-1. In the grand scheme of things, not the end of the world. This is a loss to an NFC team. It's not going to factor into any tiebreakers. But the fact of the matter is, when you've got control of a game, when you should win a game, to choke it away can just be unacceptable. People are going to look at A.D. Mitchell's gaffes, his let-go fumble at the goal line, which took a touchdown off the board, his egregious holding penalty, which took a huge Jonathan Taylor run off the board as well. Those things buried him, but just as much on the defensive side of the ball. Xavier Howard is a 32-year-old player who was out of football last year and is playing exactly like it. Opponents smell blood in the water every single week.
Yeah, that's what happens when you get those old corners, man. It's like a dude that's had too many at a bar. You don't find out he had too many until he gets pulled over on the side of the road. And he got pulled over yesterday by the Rams wide receivers. But still, I think this looks really, really good. You can look at them and look at Arizona, right? Those two coordinators that left Philadelphia. One of them looked like he's on his way to the pink slip lane, and the other guy looks like he's finally lifted this team. And Daniel Jones still played respectable yesterday against a very good team.
He wasn't the problem, but yeah, you look at it, they lose 27-20, and what was the difference in the game? A.D. Mitchell dropping the ball, going in for a touchdown. I mean, it's not necessarily like the Deshaun Jackson just dropping it behind you. It's just trying to be flashy, trying to be cute with it, and then you lose control when you're running full speed and fumble. So, like, that's tough. He's gonna have to learn from it. But damn, if you're Indianapolis, you wonder what could have been had that not happened. But I still think the Colts are a good team. And the Rams, I told you last week, like, that's my pick to hoist the Lombardi this season. And I felt really good about it when they were beating up on Philadelphia. It didn't feel great that they blew that game, but wasn't really undeterred because, like, okay, well, they won the road and they were handling the Eagles. And then, it happens. The Eagles are a good football team. They're undefeated right now after they beat Tampa on Sunday, and then they bounce back and beat what looks like a pretty doggone good Colts team. Just another feather in the cap for the Rams heading into the rest of the season, where I think they'll win the NFC West and know that they are tied with San Francisco and Seattle, who has Sam Darnold and a really good defense there at 3-1, with Arizona right behind them at 2-2, following their loss on Thursday night. So, yeah, I think the Colts are going to be fine. And I think this was actually another kind of good barometer to know just how good of a football team that they are, that they did play LA to the way they played them. And that could have been a game they won had they not made, as you mentioned there, some of those self-inflicted mistakes.
I did not see a combined 11-5 record on my bingo card for that division at this early in the year. So it is incredibly, the NFC West, incredibly competitive. We'll see how that turns out. You can hear about how all of these things turn out each and every day here on Locked On NFL twice a day, where Tyler Rowland wakes up, wakes all of y'all. He wakes up and then he'll wake you up like a double shot of espresso. I don't know if you heard Tyler talk, but you better get ready for it. But he'll give you all the information with the use of local experts, just like we do here on the barbershop in the middle of the day. So you can stay in touch with what is going on around the National Football League. Julian Council, get after it. Go tackle them on Locked On Carolina Panthers. We will see y'all here tomorrow on another edition of Locked On NFL.